think you just like saying that.
The Utah Jazz fell behind early, playing without Lauri Markkanen. Offensively, really struggled in the opening moments, but then were able to fight through it, get a rhythm. But the burden of overcoming the 20-point deficit too much, and they fall to the Thunder. David Lockett, Ron Boone with you here on POSTCAST after the Utah Jazz lose their second straight here in Oklahoma City, a 130 or 129, 119 finish. We're not actually sure right now. We thought it was 130, but now it says 129 on all of our score sheets. It doesn't really matter which it is because it means the Jazz lost. They are now going to be tied for 10th in the Western Conference. They are going to be a half a game ahead of the Thunder, who now have the season series advantage. The Lakers and the Blazers both won today, so things are getting awfully tight for the Jazz and an ability to make the play-in. And without Lauri Markkanen tonight, Ron, the Jazz offense really struggled. They scored 20 points in the first quarter. They have an offensive ranking of a 77 in the first quarter, and that they were down by 15, and that just was too much to overcome.
And that's the second ball game in a row where they got off to such a slow start. Slow meaning just could not handle what the Thunder threw at them in that first quarter. Obviously, Alexander was one of those players that what am I looking for? Yeah,
that you can't stop.
Yeah, you really can't stop, and that's the second ball game in a row where that first quarter has really buried them to the point where they're playing uphill. They did outscore the Thunder in the second half, 68-60, but this is not the team where you can just continue to come out of a hole and win.
The Jazz got Jordan Clarkson back, so Lou Dort goes and guards Jordan Clarkson, and Jordan goes 2 for 8 in the first half, 0 for 5 from 3. He kind of figured it out a little bit in the second half. He goes 4 of 7. Never hit a 3 tonight. I'm actually not sure he took a 3 in the second half. I think he was 0 for 5 in the first half and just did not take one. He also had 13 assists by the time the night was over. So the Jazz offensive improvement, I mean, they went from an offensive rating of a 77 at the end of the first quarter, of 96 at the end of the second quarter, 108 by the end of the third quarter. So they really were getting much, much better offensively, and largely because I think Jordan got a little bit better and was able to move the ball a little bit better.
Yeah, 30 assists as a team. So Jordan played a little faster, I thought. And again, whenever you're playing a little bit faster like that, that means Dort is not just flat on you. He's not playing you in a half court, and that made it a little easier for Jordan.
13 assists for Jordan, but the offense struggled. Walker Kessler, another big night. He had 5 block shots tonight. He had 17 points. He had 10 rebounds. But he wasn't able to impact Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at all, really. What is it about Shai's game that Walker doesn't have an impact on?
Well, you don't speed him up. I think he did get a chance to block one of Alexander's shots, but you just don't speed a guy like that up. He's smart enough to get to a certain spot there in the paint and shoot the floater, and then being able to score in transition for the most part. But this is I think a kid that's special, and being able to read the defender and knowing where Kessler's at, makes it a little easier for him to score.
He finishes the night with 38. Jazz started doubling him a little bit later in the night, trying to slow him down a little bit when the game was kind of probably already over a little bit, and they broke down. It's just a hard defense to play. When you start doubling guys at 30 feet, there's just gaps all over the place. It just seems tough.
Then you have to get to the point where, okay, now the Williams boys, they start to score because you're trying to take the ball out of Alexander's hands. He only tipped 17 shots tonight. And he gets, 38 points in 17 shots. That's a pretty good line.
By the way, the Thunder got 70 points out of the Paul George trade tonight.
Oh, really? Okay.
38 points from Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and 32 from the 12th pick of the draft, Jalen Williams, on a pick that they got from the Clippers, I believe, is the pick that they ended up getting from the Clippers in that trade, is at least one of them, if my memory is correct, last year. They drafted Chet Holmgren with their own number 2 pick, and then they used the 12th pick of the draft on Jalen Williams, who scored 32 tonight on 12 of 15 shooting. He's really, really good.
Yes, this team, David, and we're going to be watching this team going forward because they got talent. They have a lot of guys that can do a lot of things. They don't start a big, tall center that's going to block a lot of shots or a bulky center that takes up a lot of room down there. but they play fast enough and they play within themselves, and to the point where they get the kind of shots that they need in order to be successful.
Be interesting. It could be a Western Conference rivalry here, right? The Jazz, the Thunder, and the Rockets have all the draft picks, and actually the Thunder have a bunch of the Rockets draft picks coming up here, which makes the Rockets situation super interesting. I mean, this could be a real Western Conference rivalry, and the models are very similar to what's being done. They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out of the Paul George trade, and we got Lauri Markkanen out of the Donovan Mitchell trade, and now we have 3 other draft picks coming from that, and 4 other draft picks from Rudy Gobert plus Ochai Agbaji and Walker Kessler, and we're beginning to see our pieces come together. Each of us have this elite level player. Shai can create his own shot. Like, the one thing Lauri really can't do is go get his own shot. The Jazz are going to have to find guys, someone in this process who can do what Shai does, what Kyrie does, what Luka does, what James Harden did last night, what we've seen those shot makers really do.
Yep, I totally agree with that, but I don't think that's – what I do think is that Lauri will be able to figure this out to the point where he from game to game and from defender to defender. And I get the feeling that if he had to play Dort again tonight, it would have been a different story. Because he would have been able to figure something out to the point where take advantage of his assets against Dort.
2 feel-good stories for the Jazz tonight. Chris Dunn, who got re-signed to a 10-day contract today, 17 points, 2 assists on the game. Steal. He's kind of, you just can see he's a veteran. He hit 3 of 4 threes, which was his bugaboo prior. But moreover than that, they're playing way off him, and you can just see he knows how to get into the lane and how to play this game.
Yeah, he could be that player coming off the bench that could do a lot for you in a short period of time. And I think that's, if you have that kind of a player, it makes him a valuable player on your basketball team. And you got 27 minutes tonight. If the Jazz were at full strength, then I don't know where those minutes would come from.
He
but
might get.
You think
he's playing a better point guard right now than anyone else on the roster.
Then he could probably get those rotation minutes in.
All right, the other one is Johnny Juzang, and really got his second main time as a third main time. Tonight he scores 11 points. He hits 3 threes. That's what he had to develop coming out of UCLA, a little bit why he slipped in the draft, and since he didn't have that three-point shot. He was 4 of 7 from the field, and really made some shots, really. And sometimes you got to be a little careful that you get excited about a player just because they make shots. But that's awfully nice to see for Johnny. Yeah,
good to see him, and I'm sure his confidence levels will rise a little bit, and then he won't. The big thing that the hardest thing I think for a player to adjust to is going out on the floor and playing careful, and not trying to make mistakes. And you could see what he played like tonight opposed to where he played Friday night. He played a little looser tonight and was able to make some things happen.
Before we give out our 2 stars, the highlight of the night to me was Ron Boone when I asked you about Ochai Agbaji. You said, I like what I'm seeing, but I would like to see some left-handed drives in the lane and see that. And promptly later in the night, we saw Ochai come off a curl with a left-hand finish to the basket. The Jazz using Ochai a bit differently tonight. Rather than just spotting up, running him off, a little curls, a little bit of double staggers, and getting him coming to the basketball at about the free throw line, both downhill with a left hand and right hand. He finished with 14 points. But that was pretty neat. He does not hit his threes tonight. He went 1 of 6. All of his misses were threes. From 3, it was interesting to see. And maybe as you play 30 minutes, it's harder to make threes. That's something we never talk about, that when you're playing 15 minutes a night and your legs are fresh, sometimes that's easier than trying to guard Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and play 30 minutes and make your threes. Gets a little more difficult. But what did you see out of Ochai? And that play had to be cool after you'd called for it earlier in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I liked about it is that left-handed layup looked just like the right-handed layup. So it wasn't like it was off awkward looking or anything like that. They look the same, which means that he's going to be able to finish at the rim and with going both ways. 3-point shooting, that comes and goes. And will he get better? We hope so, especially with the type of threes that he's getting. We did see him shoot off the catch a couple of threes here tonight, and not so much, just what do you call it? Just a
spotting,
flat spot, spot up 3. Yeah.
All right, 2 stars tonight. Time. Johnny Juzang gets 1.
Johnny Juzang, you can give him 1. I think you can also give Jordan Clarkson, Kelly Olynyk, and done.
So where are you going to go?
I'm going to go with, I think when the Jazz started to make the run, it was with Jordan Clarkson. So I'm going to go with him. And Kelly Olynyk.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm a little surprised by this.
He had a double-double.
He did, and he's played really well since he's averaging 14 points and 8 rebounds a game since the trade.
5 assists.
All right. Kelly Olynyk and Jordan Clarkson are Ron Boone's.
Where are you going?
I might have given Johnny Juzang a star for hitting 3 threes and scoring 11 points.
For 12 in 12 minutes. 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Not much of an impact on the game.
And then I just feel like Jordan's first half was such a struggle when we were down 19 at halftime that I have a hard time totally giving him a star for his second half.
Nobody's walking but the mailman, David.
So that would have
told you that
could have been Kelly Olynyk. I might agree with you on Kelly Olynyk.
Yeah.
All right, those are our stars tonight. You guys can vote amongst yourselves. Thank you very much for joining us. Locked on Jazz tomorrow from Dallas. See ya.